As long as you make it into like a really famous documentary.
I won't.
Dad, I know the sound of the iPhone. I know you're filming.
I know, but Megan told me to do it.
What? What? Sold me out.
This is the warehouse.
He's like that.
So our bottles, they're all dark because you don't want light and or any sort of anything to mess with your beer because it changes flavor, it can make it skunky, it just can kill a beer, it can ruin it. So our beer, obviously our bottles are dark, like that amber type
Don't
color.
touch, Nina.
But on top of that, they are also very thick. They're meant to actually, I wouldn't drop one, but you could because they're very durable.
Sort of like those computers you used to have?
Yeah. They're meant to hold much more carbonation than your average bottle would. Like you couldn't just put a cap on these. That's why all of our bottles are almost all kegged, corked. But I'll show you all more about the bottles in the bottling room. These are all barrels. They're a blend of American and French oak barrels. They're a combination of completely different styles of red wine, Cabernet, Merlot, Shiraz. We don't always know which barrel is which. Some are toasted more than others. They're all going to come out with a completely different flavor. So depending on what type of beer is in which barrel, we will kind of measure the flavors, and then if it's really good, it may come out as like a very limited release. We may create a blend of all of them and come out with that as something.
So these are for the specialty beers.
Specialty beers, like Naked Nun, the one we just released this week, barrel aged. Those have been sitting in Chardonnay barrels for a year. And then there's Flying Monks and Dancing Monks that are sitting in kegs somewhere. That those will come out probably the next fall or winter as our other seasonal limited vintage series release. So there should be 2 or 3 beers in our vintage series line coming out soon. So this is the warehouse.
What's in those barrels?
Probably chemicals that you don't want to touch. Those are where the Naked Nuns are. I'm just kidding. Somebody asked me once where we keep the Naked Nuns. I was like, they're in the barrels, of course. No, it's probably
And that's why they don't let Sarah give the tour very often.
I just want to see where the neck is.
This is where all the important stuff happens. So what we have back here is a grain mill. So all of our, so in the warehouse we keep all of our fresh malt and grains that we get from Czechoslovakia. It's actually from a very traditional maltery, as you call it. Like they actually do like floor malting, like they spread it out and they hand dry it and do all this stuff that a lot of places now they just throw it in a big vat and it's all computerized. The system blows heat up, and this place keeps it very traditional, lets the seeds germinate and do all sorts of the magic that they're supposed to do. So we take that, put it in here, it's all ground up, and then it's shot up here into the
It's all automated?
the mash tun, and this is where the sugar is, it's fed into this tank at one point, which is where you add the water and boil it to a certain point where all the sugars come out and it becomes what's called wort, which is the base of most beer. What we do that only I think 4 other breweries do in the U.S. is we take a portion of that out and it goes into a separate tank. It's called the decoction mash, and it's boiled at a completely different temperature. It releases different levels of sugars and flavors in those grains. And we blend it all back together, and then it comes, I think over here. No, it doesn't go in here. That's just a support one. Comes over to this side, into the flour tun. That's what it's called. Yeah, I got that right. It's the lauter tun. From here, this is where we add the sugars and different flavors. So, and it also is in this phase is where it is strained out. So all of the sediment and everything that was in the wort comes out. So then you just become a very clean liquid. And there it is in the boil kettle where it is obviously boiled at a really high temperature. It's like a jacuzzi for beer. It's boiled, that's when sugar, and this is also where we add, not where we add any yeast, this is just where sugars and flavors come out. This is where we add the hops. Depending on the style of beer, hops are added in different phases because it gives it different flavors, aromas, taste, bitterness, all of that. And from there, it is actually run through this machine in the back, which is full of tons of little tiny plates, which is what cools the beer from boiling hot, high temperatures to 65 degrees in a matter of seconds to minutes, which if you homebrew, which I do, that's amazing because it can take us about 15 minutes, and that's like pressing it, like you have to get it down to 65 degrees in less than 15 minutes. So that thing is full of tiny little plates. When it doesn't break, it works very well. our fermenters. This is then where the yeast is pitched, because then the yeast eats up all the little sugars that's in that beer and the wort, and that's what creates the alcohol and a lot of the different flavors and change. Ours will hang out in the fermenters for approximately about 3 weeks, which is actually longer than most standard breweries would hold them. Mainly it has to do with the Belgian style. So they'll be in here for about 3 weeks. None of these are active. Sometimes they're active and you can see the yeast CO2 coming off. So the bright tank is then where it goes when it's transferred into this little pipe, and then we add yeast is already in there, and we add a little bit more sugar, which is why we wanted the bottle before it carbonates, because all of our beers self-carbonate in the bottle. The kegs, a lot of people like force carbonate beer in a keg or in a bottle. We let ours carbonate in a bottle. Our kegs are partially encouraged carbonated. Yeah, that's the CO2 releasing from it. But our kegs are partially force carbonated, but the rest of the half they carbonate on their own. So if you want to go into the bottling room, then I'll show you.
So you move this thing from barrel to barrel?
No, it all moves into the bright tank, right?
Oh.
So they have the labels on each one, so they know which one's moving to which one.
Okay. So how
Don't worry about it, Zena.
That's okay. No, I asked this too. I asked this a couple weeks ago.
See all these?
The hoses.
Oh,
Because I was asking too. I was like, so does it go from barrel to barrel? They're like, no, they have to have the hoses.
yeah, there's different hoses. The biggest thing with any brewery is sanitation or sanitization. So like all of those barrels are they're full of like chemicals and stuff that don't touch them. Like the caustic can literally burn your skin off. Billy and I did like a one-on-one training about how to use caustic because I needed some.
So tell me again, what's in that vessel that had the little mixer motor?
That is the yeast propagator. So that means that it is growing more yeast. So we grow our own yeast in-house, and we don't buy it. So we will keep a batch, I think, from all of them and grow it even more. But so that, if I'm assuming that that's what I think it is, you put in a small amount of yeast in certain temperatures and heat and all that, and then yeast grows exponentially. Not here, but when I'm home brewing.
So what is this barrel empty?
Yeah, there's nothing in any of these right now. I think there's some stuff fermenting. We just had some stuff I don't think we brewed this week, but we're bottling on Thursday. So now let's go into the bottling. Oh, that's our sanitizing kit.
Yesterday, for the first time in my life, I was calling Crystal. I said, I'm going to the beer run. What do I buy? She just couldn't stop laughing. She said, so you're going to the beer run? I thought that the words would never be.
Beer is actually much more complex than wine now, and it's even better for pairing with most foods than wine.